Okay, so we're back in Gemara. This is Avodah Zarah, Daf 31. So we left off, we were talking about a cat, a shunara. So cats go after snakes, and we were talking about this weird idea of snakes and their venom with uncovered vessels, and don't read it like it's Peshat. It's completely not Peshat. But anyway, Daf 31 says, it is prohibited to derive benefit from nondescript wine of a Gentile, and the wine imparts the ritual impurity of liquids when it has the volume of 1/4 of a log. And that's a log meaning a volumetric measurement, not like a tree log. Okay. With regard to the wine of one who deposits his wine with a Gentile, one is prohibited from drinking it, but one is permitted to derive benefit from it. So the Gemara raises a difficulty, but didn't we learn in a Mishnah, so Berachot 11b, with regard to one who deposits his produce with a Gentile, it has the status of the produce of a Gentile with regard to the halachot of the sabbatical year and with regard to tithe, as the Gentile might have exchanged the Jew's produce with untithed produce or produce of the sabbatical year. According to this logic, wine deposited with a Gentile should be entirely prohibited due to the concern that the Gentile exchange it with his own. The Gemara answers it is prohibited for one to derive benefit from wine in a case where the Gentile designated a corner for the Jew's wine, that is, if the wine was locked away in a specific place to which a Jew has access. So the Gemara questions this. If that is so, drinking from the wine should also be prohibited, as Rabbi Yochanan once happened to come to Parod, where the deceased Tana Bar Kapara had lived. It's interesting that root there means to separate. So just pay resh dalet. So when he arrived, he said, is there any Mishnah of Bar Kapara here? In response, Rabbi Tanchum of Parod taught him the following Baraita, citing Bar Kapara. With regard to one who deposits his wine with a Gentile, drinking from the wine is permitted. Upon hearing this, Rabbi Yochanan read the following verse about him. When the tree falls, there it shall be. Ecclesiastes 11:3. Does it enter your mind that this means that the tree itself will be there? It is obvious that a fallen tree lands where it falls. Rather, the verse is saying, there its fruit shall be. That is, the verse is a metaphor for a sage, and its fruits represent his disciples. So Rabbi Yochanan was intimating that although Bar Kapara may have died, Rabbi Tanchum, his disciple, perpetuates his wisdom. So in any event, it is apparent from the Baraita quoted by Rabbi Tanchum that there is a case in which it is permitted to drink wine deposited with a Gentile. This contradicts the statement of Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera. So Rabbi Zarah said that this is not difficult. This Baraita, which permits drinking wine deposited with a Gentile, is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, whereas that statement of Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, meaning the majority. So Rabbi Zarah elaborates, as it is taught in a Baraita with regard to both one who purchases or one who rents a house located in a Gentile's courtyard, and they fill the house with containers of wine, and the key to the house or a seal in its possession of a Jew, so that the Gentile cannot access the wine, in which case it is even more secure than when a corner is designated for a Jew's wine. Rabbi Eliezer permits the wine, and the rabbis, the majority, prohibit it. So Rabbi Chia, son of Rabbi Chia bar Nachmani, says that Rav Chisda says that Rav says, and some say that Rav Chisda says that Ze'eri says, and some say that Rav Chisda says, Abba bar Chama said to me that this is what Ze'eri said. The halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Okay. Rabbi Elazar, so not Eliezer, but Rabbi Elazar says, all substances are sufficiently secured by one seal, except wine, which is not sufficiently secured by one seal. And Rabbi Yochanan says, even wine is secured by one seal, and they do not disagree in the reasoning. Rather, this opinion of Rabbi Yochanan is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, as that opinion of Rabbi Elazar is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, meaning the majority. There are those who say that Rabbi Elazar says all substances are secured by a seal within a seal, that is, two seals, except wine, which is not secured by a seal within a seal. And Rabbi Yochanan says, even wine is secured by a seal within a seal. And both hold in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. So one sage, Rabbi Yochanan, holds that when the rabbis disagree with Rabbi Eliezer, it is with regard to one seal. But in the case of a seal within a seal, they can see that there is no concern that the Gentile might have opened it, and therefore they permit the wine. And one sage, Rabbi Elazar, holds that they prohibited even wine that was secured by a seal within a seal. The Gemara asks, what is a seal within a seal like? So Rava says, a basin placed over the mouth of a barrel that is smeared with clay and stamped with a seal is considered a seal within a seal. A basin placed over the mouth of a barrel that is smeared with clay and stamped with a seal is considered a seal within a seal. Okay. And if not, it is not considered a seal within a seal. And if a basket is placed over a barrel and is fastened to it, this is a seal within a seal. If it is not fastened to the barrel, it is not a seal within a seal. With regard to a wineskin that is placed in a sack, if the wineskin stopper is facing downward, this is a seal within a seal. If its stopper is facing upward, this is not a seal within a seal. If he bends the wineskin's bottleneck inward and ties the sack and seals it, this is also considered a seal within a seal. The sages taught at first, the sages would say that wine from the Samaritan city of Ain Kushi is prohibited due to the concern that it might have come into contact with the idolatrous inhabitants of Birat Sherika. And similarly, the wine of Barkata is prohibited due to the idolatrous inhabitants of the village of Parashai. And the wine of Zagdor is prohibited due to the village of Shalem. Subsequently, they retracted and began saying, open barrels are prohibited, but sealed barrels are permitted. And I think that this is still talking about some things that are not exactly Peshat, because whenever you start talking about a seal within a seal, if you talk about messages and stuff like that, you're talking about encryption layers. This isn't like, it's not like, it's like, let's say you have like some sort of code, like let's say a letter substitution code. So that's one seal. And then if you have a second substitution code for that, that's like another seal. So it reminds me of like the book of Daniel. It's like sealed up to the end. Anyway, the sages taught at first, the sages would say, okay, I said that. Okay, the Gemara asks, what did they reason initially and what did they reason ultimately? The Gemara answers, initially they reasoned a Samaritan is not particular about the touch of an idolatrous Gentile, and there's no difference in this regard between open barrels and sealed barrels. And ultimately they reasoned when Samaritans are not particular about a Gentile's touch, this is only with regard to open barrels, but with regard to sealed barrels, they are particular. Since Samaritans ensure that Gentiles do not handle sealed barrels of wine, this wine is permitted. The Gemara asks, but are sealed barrels permitted? And the Gemara raises a contradiction against this notion. From the following Braita, with regard to one who sends a barrel of wine in the hands of a Samaritan, or a barrel of fish brine, or a barrel of fish stew in the hands of a Gentile, if he recognizes his seal and his manner of closing the barrel, it is permitted. If he does not recognize them, it is prohibited. Apparently, a sealed barrel is permitted only when it is recognizable. So Rabbi Zarah said that this is not difficult. Here, the first Braita is referring to barrels located in a city. There, the second Braita is referring to barrels that the Samaritans carries on the road. Sealed barrels are permitted in a city because the Samaritan is careful to ensure that Gentiles do not touch them in front of anyone, so that he does not forfeit the business of Jews. While traveling, he is not concerned, as he assumes that no one will discover that the Gentile came into contact with the wine. Rabbi Yirmiyah objects to this. Didn't these barrels located in the city come by the road as well? Rather, Rabbi Yirmiyah says, we learned the Braita that permits sealed barrels only in reference to those that are located between the wine presses. Since everyone is found there, the Samaritan is apprehensive, as he says to himself, now, if someone sees me allowing a Gentile to handle the wine, they will cause me to lose my profit, as Jews will not purchase it. And, like the land is full of Jews, so that's like the business of the land. Okay, it was stated, for what reason did the sages prohibit the beer of Gentiles? Rami Bar Hama says that Rabbi Yitzchak says, it is due to the concern that Jews will befriend Gentiles while drinking with them, which might lead to marriage with Gentiles. So Rav Nachman said, it is due to the concern of exposure. So the Gemara asks, with regard to what form of exposure is there a concern? If we say that the concern is with regard to exposure of the vat, we too expose the vat, and there's no reason to prohibit Gentiles' beer more than that of Jews. And if you say, rather, the concern is for exposure of the barrel, we also expose barrels. The Gemara answers, no, it is necessary to prohibit the beer in a place where the water used to brew it is allowed to settle. The Gemara asks, if that is so, aged beer should be permitted. As Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi says, a substance that might contain exposed water but has aged is permitted, since the poison does not allow it to age, as it goes bad before it grows old. Similarly, if it is soured, it is permitted, because the poison imparts the taste but does not allow it to sour. Why then is all beer prohibited? The Gemara answers, the sages issued a rabbinic decree with regard to aged beer due to the concern with regard to new beer. The Gemara cites the opinions of various sages with regard to beer. So Rav Papa had them bring out the beer belonging to Gentiles from the store to the entrance of the store, and he would drink it outside the store. So Rav Achai had them bring the beer to his house, and he would drink it there. And both of them drank the beer away from the presence of Gentiles due to concern that about marriage with Gentiles. So the Gemara notes that Rav Achai established an extreme preventative measure for himself beyond what is required by halacha. So the Gemara relates that Rav Shmuel bar Bisna happened to come to Marguan, and he brought him wine, but he did not drink it. Next, they brought him beer, but he did not drink it. The Gemara asks, granted, he did not drink the wine due to the trace or shimtza of libations, but due to what reason did he refrain from drinking beer? It was due to concern for the trace of a trace. That is, he did not drink beer due to concern about drinking wine. Rav says, this Armenian beer is permitted, but my son Chia does not drink from it. The Gemara asks, whichever way you look at this matter, Rav's statement is difficult. If the beer is permitted, then it is permitted to everyone, and there is no reason for his son to refrain from drinking it. And if it is prohibited to everyone. And why should Rav say it is permitted? The Gemara explains, rather, Rav holds that the prohibition is due to exposure, but the bitterness of the hops in the beer goes and impairs the snake's venom, so that it is safe for an average person to drink, but a person of weak constitution is weakened further by the impaired venom. And Rav was saying, in the case of my son Chia, since he is weak, he does not drink from it. Shmuel says all creeping animals possess venom. That of a snake kills, whereas the venom of other creeping animals does not kill. Shmuel said to Chia bar Rav, son of a lion, come and I will say to you a superior matter that your father Rav said. This is what your father said. These Armenians are swollen because they drink exposed liquids. But they did not die from doing so, since they eat repugnant creatures and creeping animals, which heat their bodies and thereby render them less susceptible to the venom. So Rav Yosef says, oh man, and that is the end of Daf 31. Gotta wait for the next video. Okay, thanks for watching.